To Sundry News for Monday, July 6th. We begin with the Daily Wire. Protesters return to St. Louis home where owners drew guns and heckle couple from outside gates. Breaking news. Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes reach agreement on 10-year contract extension through the 2031 season. Damn, that's a long extension. Good for them. Anyway, the protesters heckled the couple from outside the gates, but I hear that the couple had armed security this time, so good for them. Nice house. Celebration of white supremacy. Colin Kaepernick's July 4th posts compared to his pre-anthem protest July 4th post. I'm guessing he didn't used to say the same things. By the way, he was raised by white people. Just gonna say, he's extremely ungrateful to his parents. I'm not saying he should be grateful to all the whites. I'm just saying his parents, who are white, can't be feeling great about themselves. Anyway, Atlanta mayor on death of 8-year-old girl. We are doing each other more harm than any police officer on this force. Yeah? So she was an 8-year-old girl in a car, and there was some sort of protest happening somewhere near the Wendy's where Rayshard Brooks got himself killed. And there were shots fired at the car, and a little girl died. Was shot. And it's super fucked up. Statue destroyed of famed black abolitionist Frederick Douglass on anniversary of notable speech. Yep, that happened. I guess a statue, you can't really tell if the person the statue represents is black or white. And it's just so hard to read. You know, because there's always some sort of plaque on a statue that tells you who it is, and usually it gives a little background. But, you know, it's just so hard to calm yourself down enough to actually read. Father of 8-year-old killed near Atlanta Wendy's. They say Black Lives Matter. You killed your own. Oh yeah, the 8-year-old girl was a little black girl. But I guess her life didn't matter. Maybe black lives only matter if they're criminals? So she'd grown up and become a criminal and then gotten killed by police. Then her life would matter. But that can't happen because you killed her already. How many follow-up emails does it take to get paid? 0. Start billing with Blink sale today. Try it for free. Here's a bunch of ads. I don't want to... Alright, we'll click on this just to see the comparison. Hopefully it's amusing. I could use some amusement. Loading. It is loading. On Saturday, former 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick slammed Independence Day as a celebration of white supremacy, a far cry from the activists' cheery July 4th post preceding his national anthem protests. Quote, Black people? Oh, PPL. Black people have been dehumanized, brutalized, criminalized, and terrorized by America for centuries. Oh my goodness. Let me see. Dehumanized. Don't know about that since all men are created equal and we have civil rights legislation that ensures that we recognize that all men are created equal. Brutalized, criminalized, and terrorized by America or by their fellow black people in America. Since most black people are killed by other black people, there's the brutalized part. Criminalized because they keep going through this cycle of being raised without fathers, being recruited into gangs to make up for their lack of fathers, being criminals for said gangs, because that's what gangs do. They engage in criminal activity, and terrorized, again, black people, killing black people. So, yeah, you're blaming the wrong entity here. It's not just America. It's not America as a whole. It's just your people, as you seem to see them, since we're so divided at the moment. And are expected to join your commemoration of independence while you enslaved our ancestors. Your ancestors, really, Colin Kaepernick? You know, it's a very small minority. It's a minority of the minority that actually are descendants of slaves. Most black people in America are descendants of immigrants, or are actual immigrants themselves, because black people still want to come here, in case you didn't notice. We reject. Oh, who is we? Who is we? You and all the white people who are celebrating you and saying, oh, how good, how right you are. We reject your celebration of white supremacy and look forward to liberation for all. He is so stupid. Not playing that video. Last year, Kaepernick intended to slam the U.S. by quoting American hero Frederick Douglass. Oh, the same Frederick Douglass whose statue was just torn down by the people who support you. The same sort of people who support you. Black Lives Matter type of people. What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence? This 4th of July is yours, not mine. There is not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour. However, as noted by Senator Ted Cruz, Douglass was not anti-American, but challenged this nation to live up to her admirable ideals, as evidenced when you take the speech Kaepernick quoted into full context. Douglass was not anti-American. He was rightly and passionately anti-slavery, highlighted Senator Cruz. Indeed, he concluded the speech as follows. Allow me to say, in conclusion, notwithstanding the dark picture I have this day presented of the state of the nation, I do not despair of this country. There are forces in operation which must inevitably work the downfall of slavery. The arm of the Lord... forces in operation which must inevitably work the downfall of slavery. Such forces that were probably put in motion by certain wording, such as all men are created equal and endowed with inalienable rights, words written by Thomas Jefferson, who you are also tearing down. The arm of the Lord is not shortened, and the doom of slavery is certain. I, therefore, leave off where I began, with hope, while drawing encouragement from the Declaration of Independence. Exactly! The great principles it contains, and the genius of American institutions, my spirit is also cheered by the obvious tendencies of the age. Colin Kaepernick, what have I, or those I represent? I'm not reading that again. And similarly, in 2017, Kaepernick said he left the States to find his true independence at home in Ghana. Well, there he goes, dissing his parents. Those poor, poor parents. How can we truly celebrate independence on a day that intentionally robbed our ancestors of theirs? To find my independence, I went home. How can we truly celebrate independence on a day, the day itself intentionally robbed his ancestors of their independence? So the day, July 4th, somehow he knows that his black slave ancestors, because of course he has black slave ancestors because he's black, so that means that his ancestors were slaves, obviously, because all black people are descended from slaves, obviously. So the day, July 4th, the day we declared our independence, is the day when his ancestors were enslaved? Is that? Because that's basically what he's saying here, and that's just fucking ridiculous. Anyway, Americans did not enslave black people. Just gonna throw that out there also. They may have bought slaves. Yes, obviously, we bought the slaves that were brought here. But Americans aren't the ones that went out and captured black people, put them in shackles, and loaded them on a boat. Black Africans were enslaved by other Africans back in the day. That was how some tribes made their money. You know, some tribes like the Ashanti, whose ceremonial garb Nancy Pelosi and all those lovely Democrats wore recently. That was done by Africans. We just went along with it because at the time, the whole idea of slavery was pretty normal. However, back in 2011, July 4th was not a white supremacist holiday to the newly drafted NFL player. Happy 4th of July, everyone. I hope everyone has a blessed day. Didn't say Independence Day. Some online compared Kaepernick's July 4th posts, noting that he became the starting quarterback for the 49ers during the 2012 NFL season, a position he eventually lost. Before and after getting benched for Blaine Gabbert. Exactly. Colin Kaepernick really loved America back before he started to really suck at football, said commentator Tim Young. Things may come to those who wait, but only the things left by those who hustle. Abraham Lincoln. Daily Wire writer Ryan Saavedra noted, amazing how the 4th of July was magically not a racist white supremacist holiday when Obama was president. Kaepernick's high-profile social justice activism has included repeated criticism of the United States, including at one point favorably comparing the oppressive communist regime of Fidel Castro to the U.S., the Daily Wire previously noted. The athlete has also notably donned socks with pigs wearing cop hats and retweeted a quote from revolutionary socialist and chairman of the violence-embracing Black Panther Party, Fred Hampton, warning against the evils of capitalism. The transformation from athlete to racial activist was sparked in 2016 when Kaepernick, who was starting to see little field time, announced his polarizing anthem protest. People of color have been targeted by police, Kaepernick said at the start of his protest, so that's a large part of it, and they're government officials. They are put in place by the government, so that's something that this country has to change. There's things we can do to hold them more accountable, make those standards higher. You have people that practice law and are lawyers and go to school for 8 years, but you can become a cop in 6 months and don't have to have the same amount of training as a cosmetologist. You know, that early on, he was actually able to make a couple of good points. Yes, maybe cops should have better training, should have more training, more of the training that they are receiving. And possibly better in some cases, but there's no universal regulation of police training, so you can't just say cops everywhere need better training because there are good cops who have been trained well. Anyway, more training can always be good. That was quite a while ago. Things have pretty much gone off the rails from there. You know, such as eliminating cops altogether. No, not a good idea. Okie dokie. Back we go. Moving along. It's not moving along. Continuing with the Daily Yahoo. Yahoo! Tony-nominated Broadway star Nick Cordero, oh, there he is, dies at 41 after protracted battle with COVID-19. Nick Cordero, whose wife shared regular updates on his condition, died Sunday at age 41 after a high-profile battle with the coronavirus. I wonder what sort of underlying conditions he had that contributed to his death. Recommended reads. City in China's Inner Mongolia warns after suspected bubonic plague case. Authorities in a city in the Chinese region of Inner Mongolia issued a warning on Sunday, one day after a hospital reported a case of suspected bubonic plague. The health committee of the city of Bayan Nur issued the 3rd level alert, the 2nd lowest alert. That's the next thing then, huh? That's the very last thing that we need. Bubonic plague, a return of the bubonic plague, brought to you by China. China. Yeah, it probably won't, because that's an older thing, so people are better at containing things that we've dealt with for quite a while, right? Right? China can deal with that, right? Remains of missing Fort Hood soldier Vanessa Guillen, identified, lawyer says. The Army has identified the remains of missing Fort Hood soldier Vanessa Guillen, her family's lawyer said in a statement Sunday evening. On June 30th, investigators said they found unidentified human remains about 20 miles away from the Killeen, Texas base. I wonder if she was missing. Was she declared AWOL? Or were they concerned for her safety the whole time that she was missing? Because I heard recently there was a male soldier who went missing somewhere in Texas, and he was declared AWOL, and his remains were found buried somewhere out in the desert, and the military is saying that his family has to pay for his funeral, and he won't get military honors and that kind of thing because he was declared AWOL. And yet he was found buried, so obviously he was killed, so not necessarily did he go AWOL willingly. Is this woman declared AWOL? Okay, now that I've talked about it, I might as well click on it. The Army has identified the remains of missing Fort Hood soldier Vanessa Guillen, her family's lawyer said in a statement Sunday evening. Guillen, 20, was last seen in a parking lot on the Texas Army base on April 22nd. That's a long time to be missing. According to military officials, on June 30th, investigators said they found unidentified human remains about 20 miles away from the Killeen, Texas base. The Army has confirmed that the bones, hair, and other remains found are Vanessa Guillen. Attorney Natalie Kawam said Sunday in the statement, "We are at a loss for words." The Army Criminal Investigation Division has yet to independently confirm the identification. One of 2 suspects in the case died by suicide on July 1st after being confronted by Killeen police officers and federal marshals, investigators said. So, no, they were just concerned for her safety this whole time. She wasn't AWOL. She's a woman. She can't possibly go AWOL on her own. But there is another case of a man. They declared AWOL. He turned out to be dead. Anyway, see your new house payment with Quicken Loans. Mortgage rates have fallen. If you're paying a mortgage, even if you've recently refinanced, you should be considering refinancing for a lower rate. 3 great stocks to buy if you think Biden will beat Trump. Expecting a change in occupancy at the White House soon? These stocks should be right up your alley. Coronavirus. Australia to close Victoria, New South Wales border. The first closure of the border since the panic began follows a sharp rise in cases in Melbourne. Okay. Fire at Iran's Natanz nuclear facility caused significant damage. A fire at Iran's underground Natanz nuclear facility has caused significant damage that could slow the development of advanced centrifuges used to enrich uranium, an Iranian nuclear official said on Sunday. Well, that's good. Iran's top security body said on Friday that the cause of the fire was so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. But isn't Iran not supposed to be enriching uranium? Aren't they one of those countries that we made some sort of deal with them so they would stop enriching uranium. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not wrong. Featured new podcast, children's stories read by famous voices. I've read this. I'm not going to read that again. I don't trust any sort of children's stories from Yahoo. What's hot? Oh, it's Yahoo. It's Yahoo Search. Toilet tissue from Yahoo Search. Business loans from Yahoo Search. Trending now, Black Lives Matter. Shocking. Michael Douglas. Coronavirus. Crystal Bauer socks. Jacqueline Fernandez. Sugar Balance. Beastie Boys. Skinny Fit. Steel Building Kits. Jenk Legrand. Don't know what that is. And 1440, last but not least. Good morning, it's Monday, July 6th, and we're covering a reopening in London, a possible change in Washington, and ongoing protests across the U.S. Need to know, London toasts again. Pubs and restaurants in London officially reopened over the weekend, the most significant easing of restrictions in the city since a lockdown went into effect more than 100 days ago. That is inhuman. While a wave of hospital visits from inebriated patients was avoided, officials reported many revelers ignored required social distancing rules. New daily COVID-19 cases in the UK have gradually fallen to below 1,000 per day, and the country has not yet seen a resurgence comparable to the US. Well, for one thing, they don't have Mexico on their southern border. Most of London reported fewer than 10 cases for every 100,000 residents over the past week. However, an increase in cases from resumed activity wouldn't be apparent for weeks. In the U.S., new daily cases dipped below 50,000 for the first time in 4 days. The holiday may have slowed reporting, while worldwide cases notched a new record, passing 212,000 in a 24-hour period. Florida reached 200,000 confirmed cases, doubling its total in less than 2 weeks after hitting the 100,000 mark June 22nd. The U.S. daily death toll continues to remain low, with the 7-day average around 500, which has been attributed to the virus's spread in younger, lower-risk populations. Exactly. The U.S. has reported 2.88 million total cases, with 129,947 alleged deaths as of this morning. See the 3-day moving average here. Yeah, about those younger, lower-risk people, I'm thinking back in March, if we hadn't locked them down, if we had just let the healthy people go about their daily lives, doing their work, keeping their jobs, keeping their companies going, our economy would not be suffering. Some of them would have gotten it and survived because they are healthy. We would have achieved at least some level of the fabled herd immunity that we've heard so much about, that they, I'm pretty sure they got that in Sweden. That's why nobody's talking about Sweden anymore, is because Sweden did it. And nobody wants to recognize, nobody wants to admit that. Anyway, if we had done that way back in March, April, some level of herd immunity had been achieved, maybe this second wave wouldn't be deadly for as many people. Our deaths are low now. Perhaps our deaths would be even lower. I'm just saying. Separately, we're reading how R0, the virus's reproduction number, became the most misunderstood metric of the panic. Never heard about that. Redskins under pressure. Under pressure. The NFL's Washington Redskins are considering a change to their team name ahead of the 2020 season, sources say. Top sponsors are under pressure to sever ties with the franchise, and everybody's under pressure. Top sponsors are under pressure. They're putting pressure on the Redskins. And FedEx, who sponsors the team's stadium, requested the team make a change last week. Oh, it was just a request, right? Just a request, just a friendly request. Nike has reportedly removed the team's apparel from its online store. Yeah, there's that too. The change would be the latest spillover effect of nationwide protests that have evolved into a broader racial and social reckoning. Estimates say the brand is worth more than $230 million of the franchise's $3.4 billion valuation, and owner Dan Snyder has refused alterations despite years of criticism. One top contender to replace the name is the Red Tails, an homage to the Tuskegee Airmen, the Black World War II squadron whose planes had distinctly colored tails. In related news, baseball's Cleveland Indians are also considering a change. So you wanna take homage away from the warrior Native Americans and give the homage to the black people, because black people are so much more oppressed than Native Americans. Yeah, they've had it so much worse. It's not offensive. It's not offensive. Because if it truly was offensive to actual real Native American people, then they would have probably changed it a long time ago. But Native Americans, when polled, have not mostly gone for it being offensive. Mostly, it's not. And yeah, that pressure. If they do change their name, it's not gonna be some big victory. It's not gonna be because, oh my gosh, you guys were right. It was such an offensive name. We should never have done that. No, it's just gonna be because they didn't have any other choice, because their sponsors and even officials in Washington, D.C. are telling them that they have to change their name, or they can't use their stadium or whatever. They can't play in Washington, or they can't get their money from their sponsors. This is force. This is fascism. Seattle protester dies. One person was killed and another critically injured after a car swerved through a group of Seattle protesters Saturday. The incident occurred in the overnight hours on a stretch of I-5, that's a highway, y'all, that had been closed for weeks due to ongoing racial justice protests. It was not clear whether the attack was targeted, though police say the driver, Dawit Khalid, likely drove around State Patrol barricades to enter. Khalid has been charged with 2 counts of vehicular assault. Officials said freeway protests would be prohibited going forward. Dawit Khalid, by the way, is not a white person. Far from it. Also, he was like a delivery driver for Uber Eats or something like that. So, weeks of this highway being closed. You're a driver, you're like, oh my gosh, this highway's been sitting empty all this time. I've been having to drive the long way around, losing money, burning gas. So, one day, he just decides he's gonna sneak up there. Who's gonna know? Because it's an empty highway. But, lo and behold, there are, for some reason, protesters in the middle of the highway. Even though there are no cars, the highway's closed. What the fuck are they accomplishing? Absolutely nothing. Nobody knows they're there, clearly. And somebody dies, and somebody gets hurt. Many protests have shifted toward tearing down statues and symbols critics say memorialize past racial injustice. A statue of Christopher Columbus was toppled and tossed into Baltimore's Inner Harbor Saturday, while a large group of armed protesters marched through Georgia's Stone Mountain, whose carved edifice is the country's largest Confederate memorial. And supposedly no vandalism was conducted. However, they did challenge white supremacists to battle, pretty much. They were all armed. As it says there, they were armed. And somebody was yelling through a loudspeaker, hey, something about white supremacists. Where are you? Come out. We're here. Come and fight us. Anyway, separately, President Trump, by the way, tearing down statues and symbols critics say memorialize past racial injustice. They tore down Frederick Douglass. You're not going to talk about that, are you, 1440? I thought you were objective. Separately, President Trump, who criticized attempts to tear down monuments in a July 3rd speech at Mount Rushmore, announced a new National Garden of American Heroes. Yep. A list of some statues to be included can be found here. Finally, A flag-burning hoax reportedly drew armed militia members to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Okay. The National Guard sounds pretty cool. And the criteria for American heroes does not necessarily exclude certain Confederate hero types. Just saying. In the know. Sports, entertainment, and culture. Nick Cordero, what is this? Discussion, Christian Toto on President Kanye. Yeah, good for him. Breaking news, Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Daily Wire, the latest from Andrew Clavin. Republican men without chests. I believe that means without any courage or whatever. Where was I? Tony-nominated Broadway actor dies at 41 after months-long battle with the coronavirus. Earl Cameron, black actor who broke barriers in British film and TV industry, dies at 102. Damn, good for him. UK arts and culture sector gets $2 billion in relief funds from the government. Okay. And some leading American actors, including Tom Cruise, will be exempt from the UK's 14-day travel quarantine. Okay. That's actor privilege. I wonder if any of them are black. NBA and Players Union agree on 29 social justice messages for player uniforms this season. NBA and Players Union agree on 29 social justice messages for player uniforms this season. Oh, that's so woke and virtuous. 5-star basketball recruit McCord Maker selects Howard University, becoming first top prospect to commit to an historically black college since at least 2007. Science and technology. Ancient Mayan mining operations discovered by cave divers off Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. The 12,000-year-old site was believed to be a source of red ochre pigment. Cool. Rocket Lab's Electron rocket fails shortly after launch in New Zealand, losing the vehicle and payload of satellites meant to be placed into orbit. Sad. Physicists find proof for the existence of quasi-particles known as anyons, theorized 4 decades ago. 2D structures are made of collective excitations of electrons and have applications in quantum computing. Cool. Business and markets, brought to you by The Ascent. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway to acquire natural gas assets from Dominion Energy for nearly $10 billion. Yeah, let's make Warren Buffett even more powerful. Well, I don't know. I don't really know anything about Warren Buffett. I just know he's super rich. Denim retailer Lucky Brand files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy amid pandemic. That's panic. Will shutter stores as part of restructuring. Wells Fargo / Gallup Investor Index, which measures outlook for investing environment, sees largest quarterly drop in history. A credit card that packs up to $1,148 of value? Secure the highest cashback rate on the market that we've come across, with no annual fee to boot. I'm guessing that's the ad from The Ascent. Politics and world affairs. Australian officials abruptly impose a strict coronavirus lockdown for 9 public housing towers in Melbourne. Oh my. Public housing towers. Nearly 3,000 residents barred from leaving for at least 5 days. Sounds like peach trees. I'm referencing Dread right now. French President Emmanuel Macron replaces Prime Minister, expected to announce a reshuffling of major cabinet members today. I wonder why. What did they do? 20 Saudis go on trial in absentia in Turkey over the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who was murdered inside the Saudi Arabian consulate in Istanbul in 2018. Etc. The best Independence Day photos from around the country. Watch descendants of Frederick Douglass read his famous Independence Day speech. Hot dog eating records fall once again. dog eating records fall once again. Oh, so yeah, the old records fell to make room for the new one. Okay. That was 75 hot dogs, by the way. Joey Chestnut. Is it Joey Chestnut? Anyway, the woman's was broken too. It was like, 48.5 hot dogs. From our partners, this company lets you create a website you're proud of. Its intuitive platform has drag-and-drop versatility and tools to bring virtually any idea to your page. Get started today. And what is that? Wix. Wix.com. Here are the best ways to stargaze in July. Japanese man graduates with a degree in ninja studies. Cool beans. Inmates are breaking out on TikTok. America may finally be running out of fireworks. What? Ever wonder what space smells like? Either way, here's the answer. Okay. Clickbait. Kanye West 2020. What about 2024? Why does it have to be 2020? Doesn't he like Trump? Pretty sure he's gonna vote for Trump. 2024. I mean, I don't know that I would vote for him because I don't trust him. Just like I didn't vote for Trump the first time, but I didn't trust him. We'll see. History book. Artist Frida Kahlo born 1907. First MLB All-Star Game held 1933. Happy birthday George W. Bush 1946. Althea Gibson becomes first African American to win Wimbledon 1957. Rest in peace Louis Armstrong 1971. Musicians don't retire. They stop when there's no more music in them. Louis Armstrong. That's sad. Did Louis Armstrong run out of music? Oh. Stars shining bright above me. Above you. Above you. Night breezes seem to whisper, I love you. While I'm alone and blue as can be, dream a little dream of me. The end. Thank you and goodbye.